We have quorum, Joe, whenever you want to get started.
All right. You want to throw the agenda up there?
Yep. Zach, Dylan, can you push the agenda up or give me control? Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. This is our executive MPO meeting, December 16th. We'll call this meeting to order. Item number 2 is a vote on the approval of the agenda. And I would entertain a motion.
I'll move it, Steve.
Second, Reva.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Item number 3 is approval of the meeting minutes from the November 4th, 2020 meeting. Do you have any discussion or a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Joe, Todd, why don't you show me abstaining since I missed the meeting?
Okay.
All right. Let the record show Mayor Gears abstaining from that vote. Item number 4 is consent and vote on contracts and expenses. Todd, did you want to go over this real quick?
Yeah, real quick. These are just invoices from HNTP related to the updating of the US 565 study. I would recommend approval. It's within our contract.
All right. Any discussion?
I'll move it. Steve.
I just had a question. Todd, you said it was within the contract. This is Stephanie. I'm just curious, do they come in like right under or?
I think there's still like $3,000 or $4,000 left. I'd have to double check that, but that was my last reflection.
All right, but that's it, right? That's the last invoice for that?
I believe it is. I don't
Okay.
think there's another one coming. If it is, it would be very small for a couple small edits, but.
Okay, thank you. Did somebody
You bet.
motion?
Steve,
I think
motion.
Steve moved it. We need a second.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Item number 5 is report and vote on the FY 2021-2024 Transportation Improvement Program Amendment. Saroshi's going to give us an update on that.
Yes, thank you. The amendment item before you is a request from the, oh, I'm sorry. Just waiting for the slide.
No problem.
Yeah. The request for the TIP amendment is from the City of Des Moines for their East Douglas reconstruction project. The project is currently programmed in fiscal year 2020. However, the project is now expected to go to bid in February of 2021. Therefore, the city has requested that we process a TIP amendment to program it in fiscal year 21 and add it back to the federal fiscal year 2021 through 2024 TIP. Other than that, there are no modifications to the project. We are simply seeking an approval to be able to add the project to the Transportation Improvement Program. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer at this time.
Anyone have any questions?
Hey, Joe, is that item number 6? Maybe I didn't get the right update.
That's what I'm looking at. I thought the same thing, Mayor. That looks like item number 6. That does not look like item number 5.
Hi, everyone. I think I jumped ahead one slide, so I think you're correct that we were one ahead. It's up to you how you'd like to proceed.
I'll move approval of 6 and then we can go back to 5.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mayor. This is, for those of you that haven't driven this stretch, there's a ton of development going on here, and it's an area of growth. If you're in Pleasant Hill, Mayor, or Altoona, this is really critical, and it harkens back a decade ago to what Tom Hawkinsmith worked on as a member of the executive committee. So this probably wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Hawkinsmith. So a little shout out to him.
Interesting, the West Side mayor moved to approve it then, huh?
We love it. We love it. I want to show you a property out there. You may move there, Mayor.
I'm in.
I second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion approves. We'll go back to item number 5 is report and vote on the Transportation Improvement Program amendment. And Shiroshi's going to give us, talk a little bit about this one.
Yes, so this is another TIP amendment request, and this is from the MPO. As you might recall, the MPO funding subcommittee awarded excess TAP funds to a few projects, and the projects are listed here in the table. So the amendment request right now is to simply enable us to program the additional funding that was awarded to all these projects within the TIP. So with that, if you have any questions about the amendment request, I'll be happy to answer at this time. Otherwise, we are seeking your approval for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiroshi. Any questions for item number 5?
Move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to item number 7 is report and vote on the Transload facility performance bond. Todd, you're going to give us an update on that, I believe.
Yeah, just a quick update. Des Moines Industrial had asked for the MPO. This relates to item 8 as well, to do a consent assignment on the build grant for some collateral loans they were seeking from Lincoln Savings Bank. To limit the liability of the MPO, a performance bond was agreed upon as an instrument that would help limit that liability. Des Moines Industrials was working with Ryan Companies to acquire one for approximately $21 million. We were hoping to have that performance bond in hand for enough time to review that performance bond and have legal counsel be able to review it and give a make sure everything was in place to bring that to this meeting. But just due to the timing, we received that performance bond this morning at about 8:30. Just not enough time for legal to adequately review it. So we're going to recommend deferring action on these 2 items and bring them back to you at another time. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Or Scott, feel free to chime in as well.
So that's item 7 and 8.
Correct.
And Scott, go ahead if you want to make a comment.
Certainly. We did receive the performance bond this morning, and I've provided that to one of my colleagues who practices in the construction area, and we should have a review timely, but we just didn't have sufficient time to have it reviewed prior to this meeting this morning. In addition, as Todd indicated, I think that there may be an issue that we can further protect the MPO with some revision to these proposed collateral assignments from Lincoln Savings Bank. And again, we just do not have those in place yet. And so that was, I think, sort of the basis for Todd's analysis that we needed to defer action on these items. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. I know that Des Moines Industrial does have some deadlines that come due, at least for the city, before the end of the year. So if we can possibly take a look at it, if everyone's comfortable and we look at it, maybe we can look at doing a executive committee meeting before the end of the year and resolve this so they can meet their deadlines with the city if everyone's in agreement with that.
Yeah, Joe, this is Steve. I think from the MPO standpoint, this puts us in a stronger position than we were before. So we need to figure out how to make this work. I think I mean, we're already here. Everybody's in this project. And I think this makes the MPO in a better position. So whatever we can do to help facilitate this, I'd like to.
This
Thank
is
you,
Mayor
Mayor.
Kurowski. I just wanted to add that absolutely I put approving of this bond and the future action is very essential to the MPO. But as Secretary and Treasurer of Executive Committee, I have submitted a list of questions that are related to this project and am waiting for legal opinion on those questions.
Scott, did you want to address some of the questions that are on there that we have? You and Todd, I believe, have given a written response to.
Certainly. And Mayor, I do think that some of the issues that you raised, those would be subject to a legal opinion. We can, we have worked with MPO to provide the responses that the executive committee has received so far. Some of the issues that you raise, I think, are not things that are actually properly subject to a legal opinion, but we'll try to sort those out. As you know, it's been sort of a constrained time frame to get those done, but we will make sure that I'm working with Todd and with Zach to make sure that we get you a response that is appropriate.
Great, thank you very much.
Certainly.
Maybe we'll have an opportunity to meet with the mayor offline with a few of us and with Scott and Todd, and to talk a little bit about our concerns and make sure that we're all on the same page before we move forward on the vote.
Sure.
I think that's a good idea, Joe. I mean, in a project this big, we're not going to be able to alleviate, any concerns but we sure should minimize them. And I think Sarah, the mayor, asked good questions. But ultimately we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to gamble at some point. We want our risk to be minimized, but it's not going to be zero. We knew that when we applied for the grant, and I just wanted to thank the chair and Steve and everybody else, especially Sarah, for the work you guys have done, because I know there's been a lot of heavy lifting in between meetings. And this project is really important for the transportation system locally. So what we can do to get it to the finish line by the end of the year, at least the next hurdles, is critical. So thanks for continuing to work on it.
Well, and I think any issues that are relevant to the changes we're talking about are important to resolve. If there's a lot of issues that go back to before we've already approved this, I'm not sure it's helpful to burn a lot of people's time because we're already here. So I would encourage you to focus on concerns and questions that revolve around the changes we're being asked to make now, not go back and look at the whole project again.
We definitely have voted on some policy over the last 2 to 3 years for this project, especially over the last 12 months, that we're going to have a difficult time going back and changing if that's the direction that some want to go. But I think it's fair that we sit down and we answer some questions to the best of Scott's ability and Todd's ability to get the mayor the answers that she's looking for and to help her feel comfortable. And I intend, as the chair, to work on that and to get this to the finish line before the end of the year.
And Councilman Gatto, I will just say this is not about changing any course of direction. As I was going through documents and hearing from other members on policy, recognizing that I did not have some of these answers, I thought it pertinent for the board to make sure that they have answers to these questions as we continue to move forward. And surely and truly, these have been asked along the process, so this should be no problem to answer. So I appreciate that.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So Scott, do we need a motion to continue items 7 and 8? Is that how you want to work this, or defer it?
Joe, this is Stephanie. Can I ask a question first?
Sure, absolutely, Stephanie.
Yeah, this is just in going through the mayor's questions and the answers that were given. One technical point. The question was raised, was something recorded? And the answer was that the promissory note was not. As Scott, as you're preparing whatever, I would just like to know that the actual security agreement on the RRLG, I think is the abbreviation for it, that was recorded. I know that notes aren't recorded. That's all. The the rest of it, I'll wait to see what comes in.
Certainly.
Yeah, or two questions also. First one, Todd, you sent out a email to the policy committee. Did you receive any responses back from that?
No one emailed me anyway directly on a response to that or questions relating to that.
Okay. Then the second one was, I think it's probably a good procedure or way to move forward of having your conversation offline. But I would ask that both the MPO and Sarah respond to the group after you've had your discussions.
I would agree, Mayor. I think that's a great idea.
To the executive committee, I mean.
Yeah.
Sure.
Scott, what do you want us to continue this to have a motion to continue items 7 and 8?
I think that'd be the cleanest way to do that. It gives you a better record going forward.
Okay.
I'll move
So-
to continue.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yes, Joe, I'll second it, subject to everyone agreeing that we're going to try to resolve this by the end of this month.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, so that's my second.
All right. All those in favor or any discussion? I guess we should discuss that motion and make sure everyone's comfortable with that as we move forward. All right.
I think we need to work to resolve it. I don't know if we can specifically say it will be resolved. I mean, I'm in favor.
Yeah, working to resolve it is I think we know the obstacles that that Sarah's raised, and we'll work towards getting some answers to some of those. Some of those are policy questions that we've already decided what direction we're going to go to. Some of them are not legal questions, and I think Scott stated that well. But some of them we will get a legal and make sure the mayor's comfortable. So with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Item number 9 is just a report on the Surface Transportation Block Grant program schedule. And I think Zach is going to update us on that.
Yes, just wanted to give you a quick update on where we're at with the federal fiscal year 2025 STBG funding. Applications were posted on our website back on December 4th. We sent a notification out to the technical committee, letting them know that those applications are posted and available for them to start submitting. The applications will be due by January 15th of next year, and then we'll have the presentations for the funding subcommittee sometime in March. We're working on finding dates for those presentations. And more information on the application process and the applications themselves are all available on our website. Next slide. Just a real quick reminder on the TAP schedule. As you all recall, the executive committee, when we were discussing the updated criteria for TAP applications, that we do a little additional review. And so we have done additional review with the Trails and Greenways Advisory Committee. We really did not get any substantial comments from them. So what our view of the TAP schedule is right now is that later on this agenda, we're going to present an update to you on where that process is at. And then we'll bring that process and updated criteria back to you in January for your approval. Once it's approved, we'll set a deadline sometime in mid-February for TAP applications to be submitted. And that will allow us to get the TAP applications back on the same schedule as the STBG applications so that they can present those to the funding subcommittee when it meets in March to hear the presentations. So that's where we're at with the STBG funding cycle. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
Well, Zach, thank you. Any questions for Zach? I hear none. We'll move to item 10 is a report on the Purple Heart Highway update from Todd.
And just real quick, we've completed the update. There was a few minor edits last month related to farm gates. Those were put in by the DOT, and so we were able to take those out as something that the MPO would have to do. They were done for maintenance purposes for the DOT, not for landowner access. So it's not something we have to worry about. Main thing is our costs have come down significantly on the project. Next slide. That's the corridor. You can see those red dots were the farm gate locations. Those have come out of the final report. And just the highlighted areas that are kind of checkered, those where some geometric deficiencies are on the corridor. And we'll have to get some design exemptions for the interstate designation. Go on to the next slide. I think there's one more. Now, these are the costs from the original report to the current report. Nearly $36 million in costs. That was mainly to deal with the super elevations, curves, and some grade issues. Those design criteria have changed. Now we're down to around a $1 million cost. We're working on a one-pager document that kind of highlights all this information that will hopefully make it easier to talk with different groups and kind of have a leave behind with them on the need that we see for an interstate designation and the benefits of that. We've met with, go ahead to the next slide. We've met with several groups. We're scheduling additional meetings with other groups such as Farm Bureau. We've met with the partnership and some of its stakeholders recently. The DOT sent us a letter asking, congratulating us on getting to this point and suggesting forming a task force to push the project over the finish line. So that's in process to get that task force up and running, which several of you will be asked to participate on. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Todd, thank you.
Todd, do you
Go
know
ahead,
when the one pager or materials will be complete? Just because I know I have started making phone calls and have received a lot of verbal support from elected officials. I know other on this call have done so as well. And they're just anxious to be armed with the talking points as they move into session.
Yeah, great question. We're finishing that up. We should have it, I'm guessing tomorrow, latest Friday.
Okay, great.
And then if someone has some edits they'd like, certainly we can do that, but we think we're pretty close.
And Mayor, do you want to give an update of our meeting with Doug Gross and just kind of some of the things that we talked about through our meeting with him?
Well, I mean, you can speak to it, but I thought it was good. And
Go ahead.
he was fair and just said as long as Farm Bureau was not fighting against us, he understood the price tag had come down. He would, of course, prefer to see something in writing that the DOT supports this. So Andy, if you can pull any strings internally, that would be really great. But he understands the direction we're moving in, but it was also helpful with myself previously having conversations with Ernst staff and Grassley staff, as well as Senator Ernst herself, understanding the variance we will need at the federal level, with them already committing, saying, yes, we will help you with that, but you got to get through the variance needed at the state level first. Of course, everyone would love all of that in writing, but until it's passed in Iowa code, nobody wants to submit anything. But I don't know, have we heard back from Andrea following our meeting with the governor's staff on this conversation?
Not yet. I'll circle back to her.
Okay.
And touch base and get that out to you this week.
And I know others on this call have been reaching out preliminarily, and I've been talking to other mayors. If you have any other insight or questions that have come up, if you want to raise them now. And I do know that this is being raised at MAC as a priority item going into the legislative season. And they are also requesting talking points because they want a win somewhere, anywhere.
That's Yes, that's important. And Todd, I gave you a list of a couple things that I need added because it is
Yeah.
confusing what exactly we need at the state level to the federal level. And so I hope that'll be included on that one pager.
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Certainly will.
All right. Anyone else have anything to add? I think we keep continuing to work towards this and get this accomplished. So I hear none. I'll move on to item 11, which is a report on water trails from Todd.
Progress continues on this. The city, a lot of this is familiar to you. And I know that they had a board meeting earlier this week, but the NEPA work is completed. The environmental documentation is completed. Working with the Corps on the permits needed. They've received most of those. There's one, I think, still outstanding. So that work's ongoing. The DOT, I believe, has started their review of the original, the initial design. So the project's still on time, on its schedule, and we're continuing to make progress.
Anyone have any questions for Todd? There's a lot of progress being done. I've participated in a few of their meetings, and they're working on everything from governance to branding to going through the Board of Adjustment through the city of Des Moines today. And there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. So they are working towards progress. So there's not, go ahead.
Has anybody heard about the level of interest of participation from the rest of the communities?
I believe they've had meetings with all the city managers, and I think their next ask would be to sit down. I know that they sat down with all the elected officials 2 by 2 at the city of Des Moines and had kind of a one-on-one update with all of them. I think they intend on doing that starting next year and working with all the contiguous cities and the folks that are going to participate on the governance board to start talking with not only the city managers, but with the city elected officials and giving them updates and where they're at and see where the participation wants to go with all the cities. Mayor.
And I know there's a meeting today from 3 to 5 on water trails regarding governance. So it looks like a pretty hefty agenda with proposed costs and 28E items.
That's
They
why
are
I
working
asked
through.
the question to see if anybody had heard from other communities at all.
There wasn't anything on the executive meeting yesterday that any other communities have said, no, we're out and we're not participating in this.
They haven't been asked yet.
Okay.
Gary, will you give money to the water trails?
Gary, we've already gave ours. Will you give yours?
There's
Now
not
you can't say you haven't been asked.
There's not a lot of interest, I can tell you that.
On a different subject related to water trails, Joe,
Yes.
and nothing that we can solve today. But I think as we get to the last laps of the transload and the worry about MPO obligation long term that Sarah's raised, we probably have similar issues with the water trails, and it's probably good that we have those. Maybe it's a group of members that kind of sit down and say, here's lessons learned from the transload. What do we need to have on the radar of all the other partners before we get to, the finish line, and, kind of know what our expectation is? Because my guess is that we're going to want, similar protections for the MPO for other projects, and that probably has to be baked in sooner. And with a nonprofit that really doesn't have a building that we can repurpose and reuse and still meet the with the transload, at least we can meet the obligations of the grant with a different provider so long as the building exists and we have access to it. So we're much more protected there than maybe the assets in the water trail. So we have to, I just don't want to get to the last lap and not have thought through these issues when it comes to the water trails and getting those out there,
Yeah.
the issues out there, so we can have them addressed in the weeks and months ahead. So,
Yeah, we were starting to have those conversations with Hannah Inman and Central Iowa Water Trails. You know, the primary reason, you know, there's also always a recreation component, but the primary reason for doing the work in the build grant was for saving those dams. And so that gives us a lot of wiggle room, I think, on the benefit over the 20-year time frame for the build grant that
Mhm.
feature will maintain regardless of whether there's kayaks on the water. So anyway, we will work on that, Chris,
yeah,
to your point.
I don't want to get to the last lap and then feel like we're throwing more issues on any of our partners. Let's get it out there at the beginning.
Sure.
I guess, Todd, I
One
mean,
of-
the Greater Des Moines Partnership has been pushing water trails as like their top priority. I'm assuming they're at the table to help work
Yes.
through long-term issues, since they seem to be as big a champion for this project as anybody.
Yeah. No, they are.
Question I had on this was probably a year ago, sometime in 2019, when we were talking about this, MPO provided a draw map, I guess you'd call it, of the region that this facility was supposed to draw participants from, which was clear up in Minnesota and Wisconsin and South Dakota. It was an extensive, I thought it was a very extensive area that assumption of draw for this. And back then, a couple of times I've asked for a similar map of a man-made feature like this that is actually operating and what their draw is. And like I say, that was in 2019, and I haven't seen anything on that yet.
I thought we'd shared that, but we can share that because a similar one, you know, the Columbus one in Georgia is a similar, and then the Boise, Idaho one, we can certainly do that. And Grand Rapids now has one up and running. So,
And those are all man-made.
yeah, very similar to what we're doing on our stretch of the river.
Well, that's like I say, that's what I asked for back in 2019. It'd be nice to see that.
Todd, will you get the mayor that information, please?
Yep. Certainly.
Great discussion. Anything else anyone wants to add?
I would just say, this is Stephanie Gary. If it makes you feel any better, Norwalk City Manager he's contacted me, so I assume he's contacted everybody else about Norwalk support for water trails. And I haven't heard that anybody isn't supporting it, although it hasn't come before council yet. But I don't know how helpful that is to you, since Norwalk isn't even actually on the water. But you have the support from down here because it's good for the whole region.
Gary, you might want to check with your city manager. I believe he's had discussions also.
Well, he's been involved in this meeting that we're coming into, and they've got a budget proposal in there that, well, I'll discuss that in the meeting this afternoon.
Okay.
Well, that's fine. I guess I just add, Joe, it's one small portion of this project was that boathouse at Raccoon River Park. And
Yep.
that was more wildly used than any of us even dreamed it would be.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a game changer for all of us. But, you know, obviously it comes with a big price tag, and we all have other priorities, and we just need to see where that fits into our city priorities. And that's going to be a big part of it. And hopefully the region all participates in it, because we're all going to be rewarded from it. Not just, you know, if the attractions are in the city of Des Moines, everyone's going to be rewarded from it. It'll be a draw to have people live here and to people work here. Not just to live in the city of Des Moines, to also live in Ankeny and West Des Moines and Norwalk and other places.
And that gets back to my point that the partnership and the businesses need to step up too, because they're really the big champions of it, and we all understand why.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree 100%. All right, let's move on to item 12, unless there's any other discussion. Item 12 is a legislative update from Dylan.
Thank you. I guess sort of legislatively related is you might have seen that Pete Buttigieg has been nominated for the Secretary of Transportation under the Biden administration. So just FYI on that. There's also been continuing work on a COVID-related stimulus bill or relief package. Just earlier today, there's some articles that came out saying there's more increased optimism that this might happen. The latest is that it's a $900 billion relief package, and this would include several things. They're trying to get it done by the end of the week, as it would be tied to a larger spending bill. If you remember, there was a continuing resolution that went through the end of this week. So they want to avoid a government shutdown. So they're trying to combine all these things into one vote. It sounds like a compromise is being struck that would include direct stimulus checks to individuals. And I bring this up because it sounds like the thing that is being cut to allow that to happen would be direct aid to states and cities. However, it sounds like there might be other avenues to deliver aid to state and cities, although there's not a lot of details on that yet. The number I could find was there'd be about $45 billion available to transportation specifically. But again, there's no detail of how that would be broken down among the various modes or who that would be allocated to and how that would work. So we'll probably wait until if and when something happens by the end of the week to know those details. But that's what I have for you at the moment. I don't know if Todd or anybody else has anything they want to add.
No, there's as Dylan said, there's a lot of different balls in the air. We're not sure where they're all going to land yet.
That stimulus update include PPP money for small businesses?
That's one of those things that it mentions it, but it doesn't give a lot of details.
Yeah, they're pretty vague right at the moment.
Yeah.
At least what's publicly available.
Sure. Anyone else have any questions? All right, item 13 is a report on the TAP scoring criteria update from Saroshi.
Yes, thank you. As was mentioned before, I just wanted to give you an update on the TAP scoring update process. So as you all know, we began this process a few months ago, and the intent was to update the scoring criteria that's used for TAP applications to align it better with our long-range transportation planning goals. Additionally, we were trying to refine the criteria to make it more objective, to provide a little bit more clarity and reduce redundancies, as well as trying to make the process itself more efficient and match it with our STBG funding process. So with that, we went through several rounds of review and several rounds of iterations of the document itself. We have brought it before you a couple times now. As you can see, we presented that document to several committees for review, and we've made edits to the document based on the input that we received. And additionally, we've had some separate meetings with the City of Des Moines staff as well regarding some of the questions that they have, and have worked through those with them. Finally, we've also, at their request, went through a review with the Des Moines Trails and Greenways Committee. So at this time, we haven't received any further input or any further concerns or questions. So the document essentially stands at what you saw last time. We haven't really made any changes to it because we didn't receive any other comments or feedback. So with that, our intent is to bring it back before you next month so that we can receive approval from you to move forward with the proposed scoring criteria. With that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer at this time.
Was there any particular rhyme or reason to which committees were talked to first? I guess my initial thought is I'd like the STBG funding committee to take the final look at it before it gets to us.
The chronology in which we took the reviews, where they were first reviewed by the Bicycle and Pedestrian Roundtable. So we made changes to that. Subsequently, it went to the Planning and Engineering Subcommittee. and then to the STBG funding subcommittee after that. After the MPO funding subcommittee reviewed the document, we have not made any changes to the document. It is still essentially the same, but we'd be happy to take it before them one more time if they want to take a look at it.
Okay, well, it sounds like maybe it went to engineering and environmental after STBG, but they didn't make any suggested changes to it?
No, they did not.
Okay. I just want, and my personal feeling is I'd like to have STBG make sure they had the final review of it before it came to us.
Okay, we can certainly do that.
You all right with that, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's important, and I appreciate Todd and your staff taking time to taking some extra time meeting with the city of Des Moines. I know that we had quite a few questions. I think a lot of those have been answered now. So yeah, if we can go to the STBG funding subcommittee one more time before it comes to our policy and exec, that would be good.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything? All right, item 14 is upcoming events from Gunner.
Hi, everyone. One event to make you aware of being put on by the American Society of Civil Engineers. They're putting on a transportation session early next year. And interestingly, they're focusing on smart cars and driverless vehicles. I have the URL up there for registration. This may be of interest to you personally, but also particularly to some members of your staff. That's it for me, unless you have any questions.
Thanks, Gunner. Any questions? Item 15 is other non-action items of interest to the committee. Todd, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just have one quick one. Mayor Krosky and Garrett had emailed earlier about the minutes and adding a little more meat to the bones on the minutes. We've redrafted last month's minutes. We'll be sending that out after today's meeting, just so you can see if you like that, or if that's enough, or if you'd rather, have some additional information on them. Also, to let everybody know, we do record all our meetings, and those are posted on our website. So those are available between the agendas, the minutes, and then the recordings. We cover the bases pretty well, but take a look at the revised minutes, and then we can make changes if desired after that.
Thank you very much, Todd. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And Councilman Gatto, I have one update. Myself, Supervisor McCoy, and Councilman Weaver have been working on Todd Ashby's review. So we are in the middle of formalizing that final document. We will go through it with Todd and then bring recommendations to exec, hopefully in January. That is the intended goal.
Excellent. Anyone else have anything, non-action items? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We do have a meeting scheduled January 13th. I anticipate before the end of the year, hopefully we can get the things worked out with the Transload facility and we can have a meeting before the end of the year. But right now, our next meeting is scheduled for January 13th at the exec level. If there's nothing else, this meeting's adjourned. Everybody have a Merry Christmas. If we don't get together before then, and be safe. Hopefully some point in time we'll get together and we'll be able to do this in person, hopefully in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Holidays.
holiday, everyone.
Thank you.